Welcome back. I'm Becky Anderson. You're watching Connect the World. Our top story this hour, the remarkable advances that the Taliban is making across Afghanistan, now controlling half of the provincial capitals, and a real fear in Afghanistan of the takeover of Kabul at some point soon. I'm speaking with the National Security Advisor to the Pakistan Prime Minister, Murad Yusuf, about these advances in neighbouring Afghanistan. So earlier today, you said, and I'm paraphrasing you here, there are chances the Taliban present some settlement that's not a Western settlement. I just wonder what that settlement would look like at this point, to your mind.
I don't know, Becky. That's an answer that only Afghans, the Afghan government, the Taliban, and all other Afghan political actors who matter will decide. Once they sit in one room, they are empowered, and they come up with a decision on how to run their country going forward. The only point Pakistan is making is we are not seeing a wholehearted, sincere effort at this point to try and get to that political settlement. What would we have the US do in this case? Number one, there is confusion on the ground. I'll be very frank with you. Is the world checking out and abandoning Afghanistan just like the 1990s, or is it true withdrawal which will be matched by a reinvigorated political settlement effort and an economic plan for Afghanistan? Not just words that we'll keep paying money, but a plan. There is confusion. If it's the former, I'm afraid not much can happen. I can recall the US President George W. Bush saying never again will be abandoned. I have in front of me Secretary Hillary Clinton's statement. It's one thing to pull out troops that have been supporting security in Afghanistan, but leaving it pretty much to fend for themselves. We can't afford to walk away from the consequences of that decision. People are asking, is it that decision, or is the US going to take the lead and the world going to take the lead to get to a political settlement? We want to see that. We want to see an economic plan. Pakistan will do whatever it can to facilitate both of these, but we need public assurances. Afghans need public assurances that the US is going to remain involved and see this through. Otherwise, militias, warlordism, that's been the history, and that would be maybe bad for the world, but an absolute disaster for Pakistan. Last time this happened, as I told you, we're still reeling from those effects, and we are not going to be able to go there again.
I have to ask you, will Islamabad work with a Taliban government should they be able to capture Kabul and re-establish their control?
I don't have the luxury to think about that, Becky. The only thing as a Pakistani policymaker is peace, 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 and the only way to get there is through an inclusive political settlement. Let's make all efforts. Even if it were not to work out, let's make all efforts. That is what we and the Afghan people deserve, and that's what the international community owes to them. But Pakistan remains a partner in peace, not in conflict.
Your government has repeatedly said that you support an Afghan-led and Afghan-owned peace process. Is that your position today?
Absolutely, and that is the only way to do it. No better time to reinforce that, because after 20 years of outsiders trying to fix the problem, we have got nothing to show for it. In fact, unfortunately, it seems to have been a net negative. So only Afghans can decide, Afghan-owned, Afghan-led, supported by everybody else, an assurance that nobody will interfere, and that's Pakistan's position. And we also want to make sure Afghan soil is not used against any country. Pakistan has suffered again because of terrorism coming from Afghanistan, supported directly by our hostile eastern neighbor, India.
Are you as surprised by the speed of the Taliban advances in the country, as surprised as so many others, including the US administration, it seems? And how has the Taliban achieved this, to your mind?
Look, first of all, I think everybody is surprised, if not stunned, at the pace. But here's the question I have, Becky. We were sitting next door, but the international forces were in Afghanistan for 20 years. They had all the intelligence, all the information. I cannot believe that there wasn't clarity in that community of what would happen if an abrupt withdrawal happened. It's a US decision, we respect it. But we had always talked about its responsible withdrawal, where the political settlement came before this kind of exodus. Today, again, we have proven right. The Pakistani Prime Minister kept saying, go for a political solution when you are present there and then withdraw responsibly. Opposite has happened. I don't frankly believe that this is a surprise that the Taliban are doing. This is all the intelligence in the world that was available to the forces who were there. So then the question comes, why has this been done? And people are asking, is stability really the ultimate goal? Because if we knew instability would come, unfortunately, I have to tell you, from Pakistan's perspective, this is deja vu. The deja vu is that you're leaving the world is leaving Pakistan to deal with a impossible situation next door. It's very unfair. We've been scapegoated enough. Now is the time for everybody to step up, make sure Afghans are treated like humans. People are talking about refugees as if these are just commodities who will flow over. No, we must ensure that the situation doesn't get to the point where Afghans have to leave their country for decades and decades again. We must make sure there is peace, and the only way I keep repeating is to get everybody in one room. And if there's anybody who's an obstacle, anybody, they need to be told that this has to happen. The US still has tremendous leverage over Kabul. I think there needs to be more effort made there, because unfortunately, again, what Kabul is spending time on is creating Twitter trends, fictitious trends, telling the world they're still in control. Doesn't seem to be the case.
With that, we're going to leave it there. We thank you very much indeed for your perspective today, the National Security Advisor for Pakistan's Prime Minister. Well, the United